Hello and welcome to another Nimble video tutorial. This tutorial is going to cover a lot today. It's Friday. I've had a pretty good week. I had the pleasure of going to a Damon Johnson get together. That's the guy from Shark Tank, if you guys don't know, and it was really inspirational. You know, he covered a lot of good topics at his meetup, and most of which is about what I call ego, the naysayers, the people who you show an idea or product to, and they seem to be dismissive or can't fully grasp the full vision. So let me just tell a quick story for you. The history of Nimble started from a video game engine called Explorations. Explorations was written in Visual Basic 6 many years ago. It was just for the kids, a hobby of mine that I had going on. And when Microsoft abandoned Visual Studio 6, I had to find a decent platform to continue the project. I found and stumbled upon Power Basic. Power Basic is a commercial company that is here in Florida and offers what I consider the best compiler there is for native code programming. I say that because it was originally written by Borland. I'm a fan of C. Borland had written a series of compilers for native code in any language. And when you use something like Power Basic, you quickly get the understanding that it's not really about the language anymore. It's about the algorithm. It's about how you structure your data and how you manage your order of events and how you structure your algorithm that creates quality code. So I ported a version of Nimble to see if I liked it. I didn't. It was a little cumbersome, a little hard to manage the code. I ended up porting it to Power Basic, and because it supports pointers and inline assembly directly inside the compiler, I ended up choosing Power Basic, and they have really made me a believer in the idea that the language doesn't matter, because really the compiler is what's doing all the work. If you want to take a look at the Explorations project, here's you can find me on Facebook, or find it on Facebook. It's got a few cool video game demos. It's a 2D isometric game. It uses OpenGL, and it was the core of the Nimble runtime. It's kind of, you probably think that's kind of odd that a video game would be the core of a runtime, but it is what made this dialogue and all the interfaces work. When I converted or started building the Nimble runtime, I got everything for the game engine converted, and then I realized that the runtime was very solid and it needed a development tool, and that's where the Nimble IDE came from. The IDE is the director of the runtime. It controls how buttons, list boxes, and everything is laid out, and it can compile to both Windows and Linux. Through this experiment, or this journey of building and working with Power Basic, I learned how to use the bare minimum of dependency on anybody else. I find that with everybody choosing object-oriented frameworks with the concept of DLL hell, you got into that ball, you got into that problem and that bag by so much dependency, so much object-oriented programming and dependency. And it continues to be perpetuated as people push object-oriented programming. Now, I'm not against object-oriented programming. I'm just against it being used to in excess. Within this framework of the Nimble IDE, I also extracted out the Emotions OpenGL engine. That's the part of the Emotion game that plays the graphics or plays the game. There's a part of in the Explorations platform that has a drag-drop game editor. In the video, you'll see the editor in action, but I extracted the interface and editor and the graphics part of it to make the Emotions DLL engine. So I have a real quick copy of of a project. When you start Nimble, you can, you know, build a dot motion, which is the OpenGL game engine. You can build that type of project. When you build it, you'll get a full Nimble project folder, and I've already compiled this exe in the release folder as sample.exe, which you'll see it's the same project. What's cool and what I've learned is that I've been modularizing the development process so that you can develop and compile for Windows. You can take the same code and it will run on Linux with the Wine emulator. At this point, I knew that one of the hurdles that I had as a developer was getting your app to set up. So I found a nice install application called Setup. Oh wait, I'll let you. This is the Power Basic website. These are the guys who actually own the backend compiler that does the transformation for what the code that I generate to the actual exe. And then I found the Setup. Setup is a really neat tool. It allows you to build exe setups for Windows, everything from Windows 2000 to Windows 10. I integrated this into Exploration so that when you build your project, you get a app.setup ISS file, and it's just a script. So Nimble builds a script for you based on the standard structure of a Nimble application, and you can build a setup for any platform, Windows and Linux running Wine. So I tried to include those little pieces of helper tools that can help you keep moving faster and be very productive. So let's take a look at the sample application for OpenGL. This is just a default template. It starts with a form with a viewport. When you start Emotions, you'll get the standard splash screen. Now when I built Emotions, it really gave me a good look at how a web browser works. If you have ever worked or looked at some of the 3D or just how a web browser manages its divs, it's basically an OpenGL rendering engine. And if you can manipulate a div really quickly, as if you were manipulating a surface in OpenGL, you can get great results, which is why the nimbleJS runs so well. So the optimization techniques that you learn using OpenGL, the way you manage surfaces, the way you can overlay using transparencies, and those techniques that you learn in OpenGL can go a long way when you switch to web browsers. So I continue with this project and built the JS portion of the Nimble IDE, following the same rules I did when I wanted the platform to work on both Windows and Linux. It's a very simple approach. I only use functions and variables. If you only use functions and variables, you don't have dependencies on DLLs, libraries, using prototypes, promises, any of the things that can generally cause you hiccups. Functions, variables, and callbacks. That's exactly how the Windows kernel operates. So I use the same principles when making the JavaScript framework. It made it lightning fast, smaller, and really, really reliable to use. It also makes sure that it runs very, very well on all browsers. I had very little problems with IE 10, 11, Opera, Safari. They all seem to run very well. There were hiccups, of course, in the beginning with minor, choices that I made in algorithms, but it ironed out very, very quickly so that the platform could run on all major browsers. And that's where we are today. So if you look at Nimble and you think of it, this is nothing more than an extension of the OpenGL game approach and all the very simple rules that I follow for cross-platform on the desktop. It runs in all major browsers, as I've said, and it's launching me to the next step. What's the next step, you might wonder? Well, of course, you can build great dashboards. But the next step is mobile. So today I spent a few hours with Adobe PhoneGap. I wanted to see exactly how easy it is to take a nimble application and just make it run on a phone. So I took the SDK interface, which has a lot of animation, sliding and moving divs around on the screen, and I just took it directly. I didn't try to make it responsive. I did not try to make it size or render perfectly. I just wanted all the code to run smoothly, fast, and check it to see if it was ready, if PhoneGap was ready to convert a Nimble project as an APK. After playing around with the default Hello World template, I was able to compare a base template and generate a Nimble perfect working version of the Cordova template needed to make Nimble perfectly transport as a APK web app. And so I have that SDK app here. Hopefully you can, I'll let it stay on the screen for a while. You can use your phone and get that RC code and install on your phone, and you'll see this application running. Now, as I said, it's not responsive. I didn't spend the time to make it perfect for the app. I just wanted to make sure all the code was going to transfer. So, back to the original comment about the naysayers, the people who just, I guess, can't see the method of my madness. Every step that I've taken has a reason. Every step that I have is a logical, well thought out reason to an end result. And that's one IDE, all platforms, both native code and browser and mobile. The technique is simple. In my opinion, it's elegant, and so far it is proven to be near flawless. To convert a web app, this much code without a headache, I was really impressed with what Adobe has done with the PhoneGap. Feel free to test this out. I hope you guys had a good vacation, and thank you for watching.